Recording in progress.
Definitely, sir. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to our morning classes, revision classes of the subject of CMA. The topics that we are going to revise today, the practical sums, the different conceptual adjustments that we are going to take up today, is covering two topics, both on same lines. One is overheads cost, and the other is ABC, that is activity-based costing. So students, let us immediately get on to our task. So yesterday, if you remember, I had uploaded, if by chance you'll have seen, two sheets, which are the practice sums for today, which are the sums selected to cover majority of the adjustments relating to both these topics. One is the overheads and the other is ABC. Firstly, anybody, any questions before I start solving the questions? Yes, very good morning, Abhishek. Good morning, Tejaswin. Yes, students, any questions? Trial and error method. Yes, Tejaswin, that I'll cover today. I'll explain what is trial and error. Anybody else? Any questions, any doubts which you want me to specifically address? No? Great. So then let me start with today's first topic, which will be overheads. So basically, students, as we all know, in our cost sheet, when we are doing costing, we have to charge. Now, everybody understands the meaning of the word charge. In very simple, crude language, it is add. So in our cost sheet, we have to charge different costs, which are bifurcated as direct material, direct labor, direct expense, giving you prime cost. And then the overheads, which are bifurcated into administration overheads, selling distribution overheads, and the most crucial, production overheads. Now, please understand that this format of cost sheet, which now becomes the traditional format, is replaced by the new format where first part is same. So there is no doubt in that it will be direct material, direct labor, direct expense, leading to prime cost. But in this second part, which we were charging the overheads cost, is replaced by the new method, which is the ABC. Now, when I'm saying it is replaced by the new method, the old method still continues. So the application of ABC is in specific industries. So specific industries are using ABC, but still many industries continue to use the traditional approach of production overheads, administration overheads, selling distribution overheads. Now, in case of ABC, they are replacing the term of overheads, maybe by the word support cost. I said maybe because in different questions, different terminologies may be used. In some questions, they may continue using overheads. But generally, the most common term replacing the word overheads is support cost. And instead of charging the overheads by this approach, which is now the traditional approach, you charge the overheads by the ABC approach, where you identify different activities So it may be your procurement activity. It may be your order placing activity. It may be your storage. It may be your setup and so on. And this is how you will reach your total cost. So just keep this in mind because today we are covering both these topics together. So I thought that I would first give you this very important comparison because today both the topics that we are covering, this is what we are covering in the topic of overheads, where you will be charging it by this terminology. And immediately after that, we'll be covering the next topic, which is ABC, where you are charging the same expense by this terminology. Now, for both cases, whether you are traditional or whether you are ABC, for charging these overheads, you have to find out the overhead charging rate, ORR. And here also you have to find out overhead charging rate, which is called as the activity cost driver rate. Correct? So only terminologies are changing. The conceptual part, the ideology part is same. Now you multiply this by the base. So base can be either machine hours, or it can be labor hours, or it can be units. So whatever is the base, that base will be multiplied by the respective charging rate. So if you have selected the base as machine hours, here whatever overhead recovery rate we are calculating will be per machine hour, hence multiplied by machine hour to get the total. Similarly, if the base is labor hour, the overhead recovery rate is per labor hour. Now within overheads also, you may be charging by two approaches. One is the single or blanket rate. Like in case of administration and selling distribution, you always have only one rate to charge entire administration, to charge entire selling. Hence, it is called as single rate. For production, either you may have a single rate. In that case, you will charge entire production also by only one base. It may be anything, machine hour, labor hour, units, and one rate. But generally, instead of this, we follow the second approach, which is the departmental approach, where you charge it by the name Department A, Department B, Department C, and so on. So here, under the production overheads category, I'll just write administration overheads here. So in the production overheads, under the departmental approach, you will charge it by the name of departments, Department A, and these are production departments, obviously. So obviously, you have to find out the ORR for each department separately. And to find out this ORR for each department separately, we have our practical calculation solving, where what I do is I first prepare production overheads summary. Now, this is a generic name. We can call it production overheads distribution statement, etc. Now, in that, we have two steps. First is your primary distribution. Now, how do you do primary distribution? So this is the format, particulars, amount rupees, basis of apportionment, and then you have your departments, production department, and you have the service departments. Generally, your question says production department ABC, service departments X and Y. So first part in the practical is, now just understand what is the ultimate purpose. We have to find out this ORR. We have to find out the ORR department wise. For admin and selling, it will be single rate. But for production, it will be generally departmental rate. And for finding out this departmental rate, ORR, per machine hour, per labor hour, whatever it may be, you have to start with this first working, which is primary distribution, where the format is particulars, amount rupees, basis of apportionment, and then the two categories, production department, service departments, within production ABC, within service XY. These terminologies may change. Now, let us start with the practical part. So, this is where the question in your exams would appear like. So, this question first is where we are going to do primary distribution. What is the question saying? Allocate or apportion the overheads amongst various departments using some suitable basis. So this is primary, where your different departments over here are P1, P2, P3 for production, and for service they are S1, S2. Now, what are the expenses that are given to be apportioned? You are given rent, repairs to building, debris of plant, lighting, supervision, fire insurance, ESI, power. And then in details, you are given department-wise details of area, workers, wages, value, stock, and horsepower multiplied by machines. Now, if you recall overheads chapter, what we have to do is we have to use suitable ratio for respective expenses so that we can apportion the expenses in that ratio. Correct? So now you already have this question. So in the meantime, I'm completing the format. I request you all to just start marking as to for which expense, what basis you are going to use. Correct? Students, PDF is not appearing. Somebody mentioned in the comment that PDF is not appearing. Can you please check whether PDF is appearing or not? Okay, so it is not uploaded till now. Fine, actually I may uploaded it last night late, so maybe it may not be appearing. So do one thing, you just take a screenshot of this. Just take a screenshot of this. Okay. So let's start solving. Now in primary distribution, basically in the question, you are given different expenses. Now the expenses may be of two categories. What are those two category of expenses? Firstly, I'll just change the terminologies. So this question says P1, P2, P3 and S1, S2. So these terminologies may change. Now you are given direct material, direct labor. You may be given something like salary. Now you have to remember that whenever direct costs are given, remember we are doing overhead summary. So direct cost will not be considered in this summary. So even if it is given in the sum, you will not consider. However, direct material, direct labor would be considered for the service departments. Why? Because whatever is direct for the service department, though we are calling it as direct, for the purpose of my product, it remains an indirect cost. Maybe in another sum, you are also given salary, again department wise, that would be considered in all departments because salary is indirect, so it has to be considered. Now, since these three amounts or these three expenses example which I'm considering, you have taken the data given in the question and posted in the table. Hence, you have not done any apportionment. No ratios are used. You have directly allocated the expense to the respective departments. That is why the word used is direct. And this process whereby you simply put the expense in the respective departments without doing any ratio, without doing any apportionment is what is called as apportionment. Sorry, allocation. So keep this in mind because these are also theory questions. Now, in our example, the expenses given are rent, repairs, etc. These are all common expense. How do you know it is common? Because the total figures are given, department wise is not given. What is given department wise is area, workers, wages. So see, here they have given you wages. So these are your direct wages. Now, direct wages, as I just explained, will not be posted in production departments. It will be only posted in service departments. Yes, now somebody may ask, sir, only wages are given. So what we have to consider? When only wages is given, you should consider it as direct wages until unless specified. So you can just write it over here for your reference that what we are considering or assuming it as is direct wages. Now, in this example, this one direct cost is given, which is direct wages. As I just explained, direct cost will be considered only in the service department columns. So I will take only 9,000 and 6,000 and not the other ones. So it is 9,000, 6,000. So other expenses are not there. This was just to explain you. Okay, I'll write it here. Correct. Direct wages, which is allocated directly to the departments, 9,000, 6,000. Now, besides this, none of the other figures are expense. All these figures are only a ratio which I will be using for different expense. Now I have to start apportioning the common expense. So what I just did, putting direct wages in the respective column is what is called as allocation of overheads. And the common expense which are given as a whole figure, now we will divide it to different departments. This will be called as apportion. So rent, repairs to building. So you have to list down all these names in your format. Depreciation, plant, lighting, supervision. Depreciation, plant, lighting, supervision, fire insurance, ESI, fire insurance of stock, ESI contribution. And last is power. Now, in my amount column, I have to post the values. That is the amount of expenses, 6, 3.6, 2.7. 600. Supervision 9,395.4. So, sorry. Now, in this column, I have to put down the ratios. Now, what ratios I'll be using? I hope you would have identified by now. So I have to check from the data given what is the suitable ratio which I can use for respective expense. So for rent and even for repairs, since both are dealing with building, we can use the ratio of area. So 400, 300, 270, 150, 80. 400, 300, 270, 150, 80. Same here. 1 second. Now I know you are students of maths, so you can further reduce this into smaller values. I prefer not doing that. I'll tell you why. It is not that you cannot do it, but the point is when you try to reduce it in that exam pressure condition, many times I have seen that we commit silly mistakes. Like the common thing what students say, sir, I'll remove zeros. Correct, good. But then when you're removing zeros, you have to remember it will be 40, 30, 27, 15, 8. Many times what happens, since you have seen the first two figures which are in hundreds, you reduce it to make it 4, 3. But suddenly when 270 comes, you forget that you have reduced or you have divided by 100, you write 27 only. When 80 comes, you forget you write 8 only. So in such cases, this may be a problem. You may end up making a mistake, right? See, Tejas, when you are saying repair can be value of plant, okay, I could have taken value of plant, but it is specifically given repair is of building. If it is of building, why will I take value of plant? Had this been repair to plant, like here, how it is given depreciation is of plant. Here, definitely what you are saying, I'll take value of plant. Agreed. But for repairs, since it is specifically mentioned that it is repairs to building, I will consider repairs to building only and not of plant. And if it is of building, the ratio which is appropriate to this expense will be what? Definitely, it will be. They're saying in question it is written only repairs. No, beta. In question it is specifically written repairs to building. It is written, beta. Question is clear. Right? For rent, nothing was written, but that is obvious. Rent is of building only. But for repairs, it is specifically written. Fine? Okay. So you apportion this in the ratio of area. Once you apportion this in the ratio of area, you get the respective values. Now, similarly for depreciation, I'll consider value of plant. So what is value of plant? Value of plant 72, 54, 48, 6. Here I can very comfortably remove the zeros. So 72, 54, 48, 6 and dash. See, again, do this because many times in exam haste, like how I just did, instead of writing the amounts in the amount column, I wrote it in the basis of apportionment column. This happens in exam. So here, if one of the department's ratio is not given, put dash. So that when you are solving, you have that idea that yes, any one or two departments are not given the ratio. So there I will be putting nil. Correct? Now, for lighting. Now, students, in this particular point, you will be having different possibilities or options. Like for lighting, generally the most appropriate base is light points. But in this question, light points is not given. Now, since light points is not given, then you have to go for the optional base. And the second optional base most appropriate is area again. Why area? Because the lighting means general lighting, like tube lights and fans. So either it is on light point basis or The more the area, the bigger the area, more is the number of lights and fans you require. So that is why if nothing specific is given, you have to find out what would be the other general ratio that can be used. So for light points, the specific is, for lighting expense or electricity expense, the general is area and the specific is light points. Now in this, the specific is not given, so I'm using the general one. Now for supervision, it will be number of workers, correct? So it is number of workers, again the ratio. Then for insurance, now here again you have to be specific. It is insurance premium paid for insuring what? So they have mentioned this insurance is for stock. So I'll have to take something relevant to stock. So stock value is given. So here my base would be value of stock. Then comes ESI contribution. So for this, it should be wages. Why wages? Because if you recall salary chapter of income tax, you will find out that generally all these contributions, provident fund contribution, ESI contribution, your SPF, all types of contributions are generally given as a percentage of salary. So higher the percentage, higher the salary, higher would be the amount. So since it is linked with salary amount, you should take the ratio of salary, that is wages, right? And then comes power. We all know for power, the most suitable base is HP of the machines multiplied by the machine hours. So this is also given in the question. So these would become your ratios. And using these ratios, you will apportion, you will divide these common expenses between all the departments. After division, you get the total overheads of each department. Is this fine, students? Now I'm just not spending time in doing actual calculations. I'm just taking assumed figures. These are not the final answers. These are just assumed figures to show you how finally your answer would appear. So this is how, after doing all this allocation and apportionment of expenses, you get the final answer of primary distribution. Is this clear to all students? Anybody having any questions or doubts in this? Let me know. So this is the first practical part in your overhead chapter, which is the primary distribution. Students, anybody, any questions, any doubts? Abhishek, when you are saying understood, sir, why have you put question mark? Because question mark is when you are asking a question. Okay. Fine. Understood. Great. Okay. Abhishek has asked one more question, sir. Can we put 0? So this is what I believe you are asking for the that dash. You can put 0. It is fine. No problem. 0 is also fine. Okay. Great. Let us proceed further, students. Now, after primary distribution is over, you get totals of each department. Remember your ultimate purpose of doing all this working? The ultimate purpose is we need to find out the ORR of each department. But when I say ORR of each department, the departments are only the production departments and not the service departments. Why? Because service departments are not doing any type of production activity on the products, rather they are serving the production departments. So ultimately, you are going to apportion the service department expense to the production departments, and you will be finding out ORR only for the production departments. Now, since I have to find out ORR for the production departments only, but at the end of this first step, which is primary distribution, I've got overheads for all departments, including the service departments. Now, what I do is, what is the secondary distribution? Now, in secondary distribution, what am I supposed to do? In my secondary distribution, I am supposed to reapportion these expenses to my production departments. This is what is called as secondary distribution, or it is also called as reapportionment of overheads. Now, in this, the different possibilities are, so let us say you have these terminologies given in the question. Now, when you have to reapportion, you have to see which method is applicable. Now, which method is applicable? So the first possibility is the service departments are giving service only to production departments. So X is giving to ABC, Y is giving to ABC. What is important is they are not giving to one another. So when the question is of this approach, we call it as the direct method. Now, what happens in the direct method is you apportion the expenses. Let us say here in the above example, you will apportion this service department one expense only between these three departments as per the ratio given. Then you will apportion this service department two's expenses again only amongst the production departments. So what you are doing is you are apportioning the expenses only to production departments. This is what is the direct method. Then comes the second possibility, second method. In this second method, one of the service departments, let us say in my example X, is giving service to another service department, but the other service department is not giving service to the first service department. So the second type of method or possibility that may come in the exam problem is one service department is giving to another, but the other one is not giving back any service to the first one. When this type of example comes, we use the method called as the step ladder method. Now, what will you do in step ladder method? In the above example, while apportioning the service department one's expense, which is 9,200, you will also apportion it to the other service department. Again, the ratio which would be given, which would be for 1, 2, 3, and 4. So when the first service department cost is to be apportioned, it would be apportioned between the production and the other service department. But the same question, while giving the ratio for the other service department, will give you ratio only for the production departments and not for the other service department. So one service department is giving to another, but the other is not giving back to the first. That is step ladder. And then comes the most commonly asked in our exams. That is what is called as the reciprocal methods. Why method? Because there are three methods in this. Now, what is reciprocal? First, understand it pictorially. So, where the service department is giving to another, and that another is also giving back to the first. So, pictorially, you can identify the difference. See. So, in first, no one is giving to anyone. In the second, only X is giving to Y, Y is not giving back. But in third, both are giving to one another. That is what is reciprocal. Most commonly asked in the exam is this reciprocal category sums, and then the second preference is this. There is nothing very special or something that is not understandable in any of these methods. It is plain calculation. We'll understand it today. Now, In this particular case, under reciprocal, you are given three approaches. One is called as the trial and error method. Then the second method which is given is the repeated distribution method. And the third is the simultaneous. Abhishek is asking, sir, if in exam not mention which method we use. Yes, Abhishek, I'll answer your question. Allow me some time. Let me first explain you the methods. While explaining, I'll explain what to be done if not given in the exam. That is, while solving the practical, I'll explain that also. Now, understand students that under reciprocal, there are three methods. However, when you start solving, you find that both these are one and the same. So the manner of doing secondary distribution is same under these two methods. One is the step ladder method, sorry, the trial and error method, and the other is the repeated distribution method. Correct? So when you solve, you realize that eventually, mathematically, both these methods give the same answer. Only terminology wise, they are given as different, but practically solving wise, they are one and the same. Right? Now, once we have understood this, let us now go ahead to do some practical working of all these methods. So for this, I have taken one example, which we will modify slightly to adapt to the other methods also. Now, first, I'll answer here Abhishek's question. Sir, if nothing is given, let us say this is not given in the sum, then which method is to be used? Now, please understand, students, that these three are not options. This, and this are not options. In your exam question or even in your real life costing, any one of these possibilities would be present. It would be either first scenario or second or third. They are all independent and distinct scenarios. 1, 2, 3. Now the point is, in these three scenarios, 1, 2, 3, there is no option, because if it is scenario 1, what is scenario 1? X and Y, that is a service department, none are giving to one another. No one is giving to anyone. Then by default, you have to use direct method. Second scenario is when one service department is giving to another, but that another is not giving back to the first, then by default, the method which you are using is step ladder. This is, I am saying, if no method is given in the question, like what is asked by Abhishek. So you have to first identify which scenario is existing. Now, obviously, the next question will come, sir, how I will come to know which scenario is existing? That I'll explain with this practical example. But first, I'm answering your question, Abhishek. And where the third scenario exists, that is, they are giving to one another, then you have to by default go to reciprocal. Now within reciprocal, if the name is not given, like let us say in this question, if the name is not given, then you have a choice. I will say you have an option. You can use repeated, that is trial and error, or you can use simultaneous. Between that, you have an option. So firstly, I hope this is clear as to which method is to be used if nothing is specified in the exam question. Now comes the next obvious question. Sir, how to know कि my example or my question is of which scenario, whether it is of the first scenario or second or the third? That is clear from the exam problem. So let us say in this question, what is given? The summary as per primary distribution. Now, when they do not want the primary part, because many times exam questions may be of 4 or 5 marks, and they do not want you to do primary also. Why? Because primary itself is carrying 4 to 5 marks. Now, when they want to ask only secondary, they will directly start with the totals of primary. So they have already done primary distribution. So they are giving you the totals. Like here, how we will find out by primary, they have already given production department is this, B is this, C is this, and X and Y is this. So they have already done primary. Now, what is important is they are giving you the details for secondary, which starts from here. So expenses of service departments are distributed in this ratio. Now here they are saying X department has to be distributed to A, B, C and to Y. Similarly, Y department has to be distributed to A, B, C and also to X. Now the moment they give ratio for one another, we will come to know that this question is of third scenario. And once we know it is of third scenario, we know that there are three methods, effectively two methods. If the name is not given, then it is your choice whether to use the repeated distribution or to use the simultaneous equation. Fine. I hope now this is perfectly clear to all. Okay? Now let me solve this sum by the simultaneous equation method. Again, my format is same because what we are doing is still the same thing. It is production overhead summary. The only thing is that now this will change to secondary. Production overheads summary. Now I will call it as secondary distribution. Particulars, amount, basis of apportionment, production departments, service departments. Right? Now, this question starts from this stage. Now, actually, understand students, these are not separate questions. Exam may ask you separately. Effectively, my entire working is one until I reach here. That is, I reach ORR. But for reaching ORR, we have to do three stage workings, which can be three different questions. So first type of question or first stage working is this primary distribution, where you get the totals of production and service departments. So this can be one question in the exam. Second would be only secondaries asked, that is after the first stage is clear and you are having the amounts as per primary distribution statement, then they may split this into the second question. So now remember one thing, that even though we are splitting it into two questions, your exam question may also have a question which covers both because it is a 8 or 10 marks question, or rather it may cover all three, primary, secondary, and also finding out ORR. So it may be merged into one 8 to 10 marks question. In that case, once you have completed this, once you have found out your totals of each department, just below this, from here itself, you'll start doing the secondary department X expenses. So we'll do immediately below this if it is a combined question. Here, I will start first writing the totals of primary which are given, and I will do the same thing. So 2400, 2100, 1500. 700, 900. Correct? So these are the totals. Now what I will do is I will start distributing these expenses to my different departments. Now, department X expenses amount is 700. Basis is given in the question. So here I am not selecting a base like area or some number of light points or anything. What I'm doing is what is already given in the question. So you'll write as given. And then in the bracket, we'll put the percentages, which now becomes my ratio. Now here, had this been a direct method, the ratio that would have been given in the question would be of only first three. So we would have written the amounts in first three, put 700 negative here, and here I would have put dash. Had it been a direct method. So in case of direct method, there would have been nothing coming here. And then in the second step, I would distribute department Y. Again given, again putting ratio, again it would have come in these three. Nothing would have come here, and I would have distributed entire 900. So in this step, it would have become 0. This is had this been for direct method, right? But this is of reciprocal approach, and they have asked in the question to solve it by repeated. I will solve it by repeated and again by simultaneous, just so that both approaches are revised. Now, what are the ratios given? 20, 40, 30, 10. So 20, 40, 30, 10. So I'm reducing it. So 700 divided in this ratio. 140, 280, 210, 70. Now I make a total here 97. So what I will be distributing is 970. Now, had this been the step ladder approach, what would have happened? They would have given X department giving services to A, B, C, and Y. But when they are giving ratio of Y, they would have given only of A, B, C, and not X, had it been the simultaneous step ladder approach. In that case, my first step is same. That is, I'm apportioning X department expense to Y. But Y department's expense, which is now 970, would get distributed only in these three. Here, nothing would be distributed. 970 is distributed, so negative. So in step ladder, it would have become nil at this stage, and X has given its share to Y, but Y is not giving to X. So this is how your step ladder would have appeared had this been the step ladder case. Tejaswin Beta, I am solving by trial and error method only. When I said that trial and error and repeated are same, so you are getting the same answer. You can call it as trial and error method beta. So I already mentioned here to you that both are same. So you call it as repeated, you call it as trial and error. Both are same. So you can call it as trial and error, no problem. But why I am not using trial and error? Because in exams, they are always or majorly, whenever they have to ask this method, they call it as repeated. So I'm using the word repeated. You call it as trial and error, right? Okay. So now here, I will apportion this 970 in the given ratio 40, 20, 20, 20. Just cross confirm. I'm getting 194, 194, 194, 170. And here I'm getting 388. Please confirm. Perfect. Now what will happen? Now, since this is the reciprocal category, at this stage, again, you get some expense in department X. Now, why it is a trial and error method? Because in trial and error, you continue the process on a trial basis again and again. So as we say now, what is trial and error? You check what is the effect, you again redo, you again check, that is what is trial and error. So I again distribute this 194. Again distributing it to all in the ratio of X. Correct? Now here 194 is distributed. Here what I'm getting is 19.4. Here what I will get is 38.8 and so on in the other two also. 19.4. So this method is the trial and error method and also the repeated method. Now, Now comes the most important step as to how this process of trial and error will be concluded. This process will be concluded by not apportioning to the other department. So here I conclude this process by only apportioning to ABC and not to Y or not to X. The question is how I will come to know when I have to stop this process. Like I am stopping this process here. The main question is, sir, when I will come to know when I have to stop this process. The answer is whenever you reach to such a value, like here the value is 19.4, that after this, when you distribute, it is going to be single digit. So whatever I'm going now to distribute and whatever will be given to X, that will be single digit. Like here in this example, had I distributed this further, it would have come as 3.88 here, had I continued this process giving to X. So it is a single digit figure, which is a very nominal figure. Hardly it is coming to rupees 4. So that is where you stop this trial and error process by not distributing it again to X. So now my distribution is nil because I have not given to X and I have distributed to all other. So 3.82, 388, 7.96, 7.76. Correct? Now when I take the final total, this is nil. And now adding up all these amounts which I have apportioned at different stages plus the original, I get the total expense of department A, of B, of C. So this becomes the total overheads finally only of production departments, which I will be using for apportionment. Correct? I hope students, you all have understood the secondary distribution process by the first three methods, that is direct, step ladder, and also the trial and error or the repeated distribution method. Correct? Now, this same thing, that is this repeated or trial and error, can be achieved by another method which is called as the simultaneous equation method. So I'm writing here simultaneous. Now, add this sum to be solved by the simultaneous equation. You first prepare the same working, that is, you have the same format, the same structure. The only thing is we will not distribute the expenses which are given in the question. So up till now, what we were doing, we were distributing the same expense which was given in the question. Now we will not distribute that. Rather, we will distribute a different value which we will calculate using our simultaneous method. Now, what you understand in this trial and error or the repeated method is that X is giving to Y, again Y gives to X, again X gives to Y, again Y gives to X, and this process may continue for multiple repetitions. Here, since the values were very small, we ended the process in 2 cycles. It may run to 4 or 5 cycles also. However, in exam, generally they give lower values which gets ended in 2 or maximum 3 cycles. Ended means you have to end it by not apportioning it to the other department, but that happens in 2 or in 3 cycles maximum. But this may repeat for multiple cycles depending upon how big is the value given for X and Y. Now, to avoid this repeated effort and the mechanical process, you are given a shortcut, which is the simultaneous equation. Now, simultaneous equation says, let us first find out what will be the total expense of the service department. Any service department, be it X or Y. The total expense of any service department will be its own expense. That is, in case of X, it is this, plus whatever share it gets from the other service department. So what will be the total cost of X? It is the own expense of X plus whatever it is getting from Y. This will be the total cost of any service department. Now, with this logic in mind, let us find out total cost of department X. Let us call it as X only. It will be what? 700, which is its own expense plus whatever share it will get from Y. Now, what will be Y? Y will be again 900 own expense plus whatever share it gets from X. Now, how much they are giving to one another? See the ratio. Department X is giving 10% to Y and Y is giving 20% to X. So be clear with the ratios what each one is giving to the other. So department Y is giving 20% to X, or it is 20% of Y, which X is getting. Similarly, department X is giving 10% to Y, or you will say Y is getting 10% of X. Now, these becomes my simultaneous equations. Call it as A, call it as B, call it as 1, call it as 2. Now, what we do is we simply substitute the value of Y here. So substituting value of Y in equation A, we get 20% of Y. What is Y? 900 plus 0.1x. 0.1 is 10%. So this becomes the new equation of X. Now let us solve this. So it is 700 plus 20% of 900 is 180 plus 20% of 0.1x, which becomes 0.02x. This 0.02x will come on the left hand side. So it will get subtracted from x. X means it is 1. So what I am left on the left hand side is 0.98x. And on the right side, I get 880. Therefore, by dividing 880 by 0.98, you get the value of x. So the answer given by Tejaswin is 8. But it cannot be 878. Check how much you are getting of x. What answer you gave, I don't think that is the right answer. X cannot be 878. Okay. So you have corrected yourself. So you are saying X is 898. Okay, perfect. Great. So X is 898. Correct. Now, once I found out the value of X, no need to find out for Y. Now we will follow the same format and we will divide this 898, which I have got for X by this approach, between all the departments, including Y. Now, how much Y will get? Y will get 10% of this. So Y will get 89.8. And interestingly, I have distributed this. So here you get a negative value for the first time. So out of all the methods, in this method, you get a negative value. Now, what is the new value of Y? Y is 989.8. Now, when you divide all this between these departments, interestingly, you will get exactly 198 over here. So in this step, in one step, the departments become 0 and you get totals of ABC. And let me tell you, these totals of ABC, what you are getting here, will match exactly with what you would have got by the trial and error method, that is the repeated distribution method. So this is how you solve the same thing by the simultaneous equation method. Is this clear to all? Students, is this clear to all? Anybody, any questions with primary or secondary? Yes, students. Any questions with primary or secondary? Perfect. Great. Now let me also show you what happens whenever the question also asks the third stage, that is finding out ORR. So let us just, I'll again put some artificial values. So let us say this total is coming as 3,000, this is coming as 2,400, this is coming as 1,800. So this is your final total overheads. Now to find out ORR, I have to select a base. Now the base may be machine hours. Let us say here, they have given in the question 2,000 machine hours. Let us say for B, they have given you 48,000 labor hours. And for C, they have given you 300 units. So these are the bases given. So I will divide this total overheads by the base. So I'll get the ORR. So the formula for finding out ORR is total overheads upon the base, which is given. So for machine or the department A, it is coming as 1.5 per machine hour. Here it is coming as 0.5 per labor hour. And here it is coming as rupees 6 per unit. So these becomes your overhead recovery rate, overhead charging rate for each departments, which we get in 3 steps: primary, secondary, and then finally dividing the total overhead by the base. And then when you have to prepare the cost sheet, now you will be using those rates here. So I will be multiplying the machine hours of this particular job by 1.5. I'll be multiplying the labor hours of this job by 0.5 and the units of this job by rupees 6. So by doing this, I will get the overheads which I have to charge to this job of each of the departments A, B, C. So this is how, under the traditional method, you charge the overheads. Is this thoroughly clear, students? Good. Now, once this is done, let us proceed to the next type of problem, which is called as the machine hour rate sums. What is this machine hour rate sums? So basically, machine hour rate sums is like in this department. In this example, you saw that out of the 3 production departments, my department A is a machine department. How do I know department A is a machine department? Because department A has used the base as machine hours for finding out its ORR. It means department A is running using machines and not using labor. See, labor is always required to operate machine, but the major operations are machine driven. They are automated. So we call it as a machine department. Now, what is a machine hour rate sum? Machine hour rate sum is you actually do the same steps, primary, secondary, ORR, but only for one department, that is department A. So instead of doing for all departments, now the question will be exclusively for one department. So let us say they will call it as machine department or machine shop A, or they will call it as cost center. So these are parallel terminologies. So now you have to find out the same thing. See, you have to find out same what ORR. ORR by taking machine hours as the base. So the ORR will be point something per machine hour. So like in my example, it is 1.5 per machine hour. So my ORR is per machine hour. This is what is called as machine hour rate. So the ORR, which is computed by taking machine hour as the base, is what is called as machine hour rate. Now, in this type of question, we do the same thing. We first prepare, now here I'm calling it as cost sheet, but it is not actually cost sheet because we are not finding out cost of each product. So let us say to avoid any confusion, I will simply say overheads statement or cost. So amount rupees. Now here you have to remember, we have to do only of one department. Now within this one department, which in my example is, let us say machine shop A, there are 10 machines. Now you have to be very clear while reading the question that the data which you are going to consider over here will be of one machine or of 10 machines. Generally, it is of one machine. Means they may give you certain data which may be of 10 machines, but in order that our calculation is perfect, all figures have to be at same level. So either all figures have to be for 10 machines or all figures have to be of one machine. So generally while solving, we take the values of one machine. So what we do is we find out the total cost. What is this total cost? All the overhead expenses of this machine shop of one machine. We make a total and then we divide this total cost by the machine hours of that one machine. So automatically what I will get is the per machine hour overhead, which is the machine hour rate. I hope this is clear. This is what is the machine hour rate sums. So see, this is how the question appears. So what it says, in a machine department of a factory, there are 5 identical machines. So as I said, now there would be multiple machines. So in this department, in this machine shop, there are 5 machines. From the particular given below, prepare the machine hour rate. So you have to find out the machine hour rate of one of the machines. Now, whether you do it for one or for 5, the machine hour rate will be same because mathematically numerator, the cost is of one machine. So divide by denominator, the machine hours is also one machine. If in the numerator, the cost is of 5 machines, denominator, the machine hours are also 5 machines. So mathematically, the per machine hour rate will be same. But as I said, practically, we do it for one machine. Now, when you are doing this, you have to read the question very, very minutely because you have to see, you have to ensure that all expenses are at same. Now see what are the data given. They have given you the area. Area of this department total is 10,000 and the area occupied this one machine is 2,500. So this will be helpful. Then you are given cost of the machine. The means of one machine, scrap value of this machine, and the life of this machine. Now, I'm sure you all will understand where this will be used. This will be used in getting the depreciation. However, they have also given you depreciation. Now, when this is given, depreciation will be calculated directly at this rate and not by the SLM method. So had this not been given, we would have used this data to compute the depreciation. Now, normal running of the machine is 2000 hours. So this is the machine hours. Power consumption is given. Repairs, maintenance is given. Now this is where you have to be clear. Now the power consumed by the machine, it means it is of one machine only. But when you see the repairs and maintenance, it is saying of the entire working life. Now when we say working life, then this figure will come into play. That is this 15 years, right? Sundry supplies including oil waste charge to the machine is this. Again, this is of the machine, that is of one machine. Now, other monthly expenses, this is of the department. Now, when we say department, it means of all machines combined, but we want the cost only of one machine. So this is where you have to be careful. you have to convert this into cost of one machine. Now rent, it is of department, we'll use area to find out of one machine. Lighting, they have said apportion it in the ratio of workers. So you have to use the ratio of workers. Had they not mentioned this, we would have used area only. Supervision, again by default, we'll use workers because for supervision, workers are the basis. For other charges, if nothing is mentioned, then you have to use the basis which you feel appropriate. Let's see if some data is given. Now, it is ascertained that the degree of supervision required for the machine is 250. Okay. So for supervision, you have to take 250 because that is specifically given. There are 16 workers in the department, of which 4 workers are for this machine and the remaining are for the other machines. So for workers, you have got this. For this, you have got the worker ratio. Now, only thing which is left is other charges. Now, where nothing is given, we will divide this other charges by the number of machines. Because if nothing is given, we assume that this other charges would be used equally for all the machines. So since this department has 5 machines, we will divide this by 5 machines. So here you have the depreciation of the machine, correct? After depreciation, you have power, you have repairs, you have power, you have repairs, oil, waste. In other monthly charges, you have rent rates, you have lighting. Supervision, other charge. Okay, so one by one. So depreciation, cost of machine 20 lakhs into, sorry, not this 7.5. So 20 lakhs into 7.5%. Power 9 lakhs. It is given. Repair and maintenance for the whole life is 525. Power is 9 lakhs. Repair maintenance for the whole life is 525. And this is a whole life. I divided by 15 years so that I get for 1 year. Remember this, we are doing this cost sheet for one machine of 1 year. See, we have to bring parity so that all are at same level. Then only you'll get the right or the correct answer. Normal running hours is 2,000 that we'll use later. Power consumed is done. Okay, oil and supply 60,000 per annum. Now rent rates. Now this is given for the department. Now if it is given for the department, we have to find out for the machine. For this, we use this area. So total area is 10,000, out of which 2,500 is for this machine. So rent rates 90,000, 2,500 out of 10,000. Okay. And rent rates is 90,000. And see, this is monthly. So you have to be very careful. 90,000 into 12 months into 2,500 upon 10,000. Correct? Be very careful with the values given. Again, lighting is 40,000 and we have to take it in the ratio of workers. What is the ratio of workers? There are 16 workers, out of which 4 are on this machine. Twelve months into 4 by 16. Supervision is 125 and it has to be taken as 2/5. Other charges 90,000. and this whole divided by 5 machines. So students, this is how you will do the apportionment of expenses, and then taking up the total of this, I will get my total cost of department A, or whatever name is given for this machine department. Let us say it is coming to rupees 25 lakhs. Again, I'm assuming this figure. Divided this by normal machine hours. So they have given that the normal machine hours of this is 2000 machine hours. So dividing this, I will get the machine hour rate. That is the ORR which is required. I have some inputs from students. Ishant is saying, sir, what if depreciation is given as a total and there are more than one assets in each department? Then you divide it in the ratio of value. Recall better primary distribution. Whatever we learned in primary distribution is what we are doing here, Ishan. So if depreciation would have given as an amount, we would have apportioned it using the ratio of the value of machine. Then they would have given you the value of other machines also. Correct, Abhishek. Money Varnan is saying scrap value. I think but a scrap value over here will be not useful. It will be useful when we are doing it by the straight line method, right? Because generally the SLM method, sorry, not SLM, this percentage or WDV method, when they give you percentage, that is calculated considering the scrap value adjustment. So generally we directly multiply the percentage by the cost. We do not reduce it by the scrap value, right? Now in this question, this machine hours were given. In some other question, you may also be required to compute the normal machine hours. So besides this cost statement, you have to also find out the normal machine hours. How that is found out? They would give you machine hours available. So let us say they are giving you 2,500 is the available machine hours. What is available? So for the total period the factory is working, how many machine hours you are expected to work. But in this, you have to always remember like how labor requires some break. Machines will require some break, or one is setup, one is for repairs and maintenance. So this has to be reduced. And then what you get is your normal productive machine hours. So this calculation may be the additional calculation required in the sum. Correct? So this is how we find out the ORR or the machine hour rate. Just one more question in this I found relevant, so I picked up here. This is slightly expanded. I'm just taking a 2 to 5 minutes break. I'll request you to go through this question and start solving at your end till the time I take a refreshment break. Yes, Tejaswin has given good input. He says, sir, but at times they say setup is productive. Tejaswin, whenever they say setup is productive, in that case, you do not reduce the setup. So that adjustment is just one additional point in that. But basically, the format is you reduce setup and maintenance both. However, when they, as you rightly pointed out, if they say that setup is productive, then what you will do is you will not reduce the setup time. Now that you will get to understand even in this. Here, this second question, this question is where indirectly setup is productive. Now, how do you know setup is productive? While charging to your jobs, they have also given setup time separately. Now, whenever you have to charge setup, this example or this type of sum becomes relevant, which is a dual machine hour rate sum. So what is a dual machine hour rate? In my previous question, I divided the total cost of this particular machine by the total hours. We got one single charging rate. However, at times the question wants you to calculate two charging rates, which is called as dual machine hour rate. Let us see what is this question about. So it says a company having 25 different types of machines gives the following details in respect of machine B. So be very clear about the data. See, question reading is the most critical part according to me in our exams. See, solving, once you understand the concept, you know the format, solving is very much mechanical, 80%. Only 20% is slightly here and there. You require some special efforts in solving. But the entire skill in getting the correct answer and getting full marks is minutely reading the question. So here I need to first find out whether all expenses are at same level, like whether all are at par. So here they say that this is in respect of machine B. What are the details given? So the cost of machine given is 50 lakhs, life is 10 years, scrap value is 5 lakhs. Other expenses are factory rent. Now here the point changes. Here when they say it is factory rent, it means it is of the entire factory, right? This is what we have to now interpret. So area of the factory is given, area occupied by the machine is given. Okay? Then operator details are given. Estimated production hours 3,600 and setup is 400. And the power cost is given. So in all these expenses or in all this data, factory rent is the one which is given as common for the entire department. So that you will have to apportion or find out proportionately for the machine. Other than that, all are for the machine. This is what we interpret point number one. Second, we will bring all at the same level by either taking it as per month or taking it as per annum. So again, you have to be very careful with whether you are taking the figures as per month or as per annum. See, my hours are given per annum, correct? These costs are all per month. Wages. ठीक है. So we'll do one thing. We'll consider all expenses as annual only. So we will be finding out this or we'll be preparing this cost statement with expenses of machine B per annum. Now, when you have to find out dual machine hour rate, it means there has to be two charging rates. Now, how you find out two charging rates? The steps are same. You find out total cost, but you have to now divide it by two different hours. One is the production hours and one is the setup hours. Here setup is also productive, and that is why we are dividing it separately and finding out separate charging rate for setup. Now, for doing this, we need two separate cost statements, one for setup, one for production. But we need not do all expenses separate right from start because there are only two expenses which are specifically different for production and setup. One is this wages and one is this power. Other than this, all expenses are common for the entire machine. So in such a case where you have to do a dual machine hour rate sum, we prepare the same format. That is, we find out the cost by preparing the overhead statement. The only thing is first we consider the common cost. So you have depreciation of machine. Achha, okay. We are doing this for machine B per annum. So you have depreciation. Then you have factory rent, heating, lighting, supervision. Reserve equipment. Then you have wages, which is specific, power, which is specific. So we'll not consider it right now. So 50 minus 5 is 45. 45 divided by 10 is 4.5 lakhs. Factory rent is 50,000 per month. Area occupied by factory is 80 and our machine is 3,000. Into 12 into 3,000 divided by 80,000. Correct? Heating, lighting, 40,000 per month. So heating, lighting is 1. Supervision. Yes. Now see, for this supervision also, we will have to make an assumption that this is given for the entire department. Now, if I'm taking this assumption that the supervision is for the entire department, I'm dividing it by 25 machines. Correct? Because generally supervision is paid for all the persons combined. Samriddhi, you're right. We can distribute heating, lighting, but when we will distribute heating, lighting, if it is given that it is for the entire factory. So if heating, lighting is for the entire factory, now this is what I'm trying to figure out. Whether heating, lighting is for the entire factory. Because if it is for the factory, then we'll have to apportion it. Fine. For the time being, I'm considering, because they should have mentioned this heading here itself, that this overheads is for one machine or for the entire factory. You're right, beta. Even heating, lighting has to be considered for the entire factory. Why? Because if you see in this sequence, except for reserve equipment, which is specifically given for machine B, all other are on the aggregate level. So heating, lighting is for the factory. You're right. So heating, lighting is also for the factory. Now in this, I divide it again by number of machines. Reserve equipment is only for machine B. So there is no calculation to be done. Sorry, it is per month. So 60. Others, you please calculate and give me the total common expense, which I will now divide it into two parts, production. So common expenses and then the specific expense. Power and operator. Students, please give me the total of this common expense. Now power is given 5 per hour for production. Now what are the hours? 3,600 and 400. So we'll apportion this common expense in this ratio. Now power will be rupees 5 into 3,600 hours, which is only for production. So nothing will come in setup. Pages, finishing, heating, lighting will be apportioned on the basis of area of machine B. See, this is, I think, subjective. Tejaswin, that on what basis you will divide heating and lighting. Yes, even if you divide it by area, it is acceptable. I'm taking it by machine, so that much subjectivity will be there, but I'm solving so that you can put it by way of note. Okay, I'm proceeding. In the meantime, I'll request you all to give me this total common expense so that I can apportion that also. Operator wages. What is given for operator? 240 per day of 8 hours. He attends one machine when under setup and two machines while under production. So my operator cost me rupees 30 per hour, correct? Now he attends two machine while it is under production. So 30 divided by two machines. Whereas he attends only one machine while it is under setup. So 400 hours into 30. Okay? So students, this is how you will get your total expenses. This will be for production. This will be for setup. Now I divide it by my machine hours. Production machine hours are 3600. Setup machine hours are 400. Now I will get my machine hour rate. And now you will be getting two separate machine hour rate for production, for setup. So this becomes a case of dual machine hour rate. I hope this is clear to you all students. Yes. Anybody, any questions or doubts in this? May I proceed further? No doubts? Excellent. Okay. So we go to the last part in overheads. We take up that next 10 minutes and then we go to our ABC. Now, what is the next thing in overheads is you have to do the treatment of under or over absorbed overheads. Now, what is this treatment? So see, at the end of the year, 1 second, student. अभिषेक बेटा, ऑपरेटर्स वेजेस मतलब ऑपरेटर का जो पगार है आपको सम में दिया था। ऑपरेटर का पगार कितना है? 240 रुपए पर डे, और एक दिन में वो ऑपरेटर 8 घंटे काम करता है। इसका मतलब उसका पर आवर पगार कितना होगा? 30 रुपीज। अब क्या कहा है कि वो एक मशीन को अटेंड करता है जब मशीन का सेटअप चल रहा है, और जब मशीन प्रोडक्शन में है तब वो एक साथ दो मशीन हैंडल करता है। अब इसका इफेक्ट क्या होगा कि अगर वो प्रोडक्शन के वक्त दो मशीन हैंडल कर सकता है, यानी उसका पगार जो है 30 पर आवर, वो प्रोडक्शन वाले केस में हाफ हो जाएगा, क्योंकि वो 30 रुपए में दो मशीन का प्रोडक्शन हैंडल कर सकता है। इसलिए हमने प्रोडक्शन वाले टाइम को डिवाइडेड 30 डिवाइड बाई 2 किया, क्योंकि वहां पे उसका जो भी पगार है वो दो मशीन में बढ़ जाएगा। पर जब मशीन सेटअप के अंडर है तब उसको पूरा अपना टाइम एक ही मशीन पे देना है, तो सेटअप वाले टाइम को हमने पूरे 30 रुपीज से चार्ज किया। ठीक है अभिषेक? ओके। नाउ, what is this treatment of under or absorption? So we did all the above part, that is ORR, charging during the year. So you calculate ORR at the start of the year, and then throughout the year you do charging by using the cost sheet. But when you come to the close of the year, you see your cost accounts in which you see the production overheads account. And in production overheads account, debit side is what is your actual overheads incurred. And credit side is your overheads which you have charged in your cost sheet by using that ORR. Now, when you have this two different figures in which debit side is your actual amount which you paid, credit side is the amount that you charge using ORR, definitely there will be some difference. If let us say this is 5 lakhs, what you paid and what you charge is 4.5 lakhs, then this difference of 50,000 is called as under absorption. Whereas if it is the other way around, this is 4 lakhs, let us say, and this is 320. So you have paid only 320, but you charge 4 lakhs. So in this case, this difference will be called as over-absorption. So under-absorption, over-absorption is what? Where you pay more but charge less, it is under-absorption. Where you charge more and pay less, it is over-absorption. Now, whatever it is, you have to do something of this difference, which is called as the treatment of this difference. Now, what this treatment is, the format is again fixed. So this answer is also in a strict format only, treatment of under, over, absorb, overheads. Now, first you find out whether you have under or over absorption. By the formula, overheads charged minus overheads incurred. Now see, manufacturing overheads and manufacturing overheads applied. Applied means charged. So what you have paid is this 736,566. And applied means what you have charged 543,526. This difference is a difference of under or over absorption. Can anybody tell me? Can anybody give me this difference? Yes, anybody can give me this difference? One nine three zero four zero. Someone is giving me 193,140. So two people have given me 193,040. One is Samriddhi, one is Tejaswin. So I'm believing this is the correct answer and not 193,140. So I'm taking 193,040. Yes, it is 040 only. Now, here my charged is more, my incurred is less. So this is under absorption. Because, sorry, students. I have written the figures opposite. 543, 526. And incurred is 736, 566. So it is under absorption because I've incurred more and charged less. Now, once you find out this, you have to now give the treatment. Now, let me first give you the other type of questions also, because here only one type of adjustment is covered. What is the other type? So many times in question, you are given a percentage as to how much is normal and how much is abnormal. So let us say the question says that whatever is the difference out of which 60% is because of normal factors like general increase in prices and 40% is because of abnormal reasons like bad production planning or something which is uncontrollable like floods or pandemic, etc. So in this case, what you would do if the question is like this question is not like this, but if the question is like this, you will divide this in 60-40. So 40%, 60%. Now this will be charged to products. How that we are going to see. and this will be charged to costing P&L. So this is our standardized treatment. So what is the standardized treatment? This amount will be charged to product. This amount will be charged to P&L. This is where the question has given you breakup of normal abnormal. However, if you read this question, this is slightly different than your regular questions, and that is why I selected this question for revision. They are saying that give two methods of disposal of the under-absorbed overheads. Importantly, what are these two methods? These two methods are those two possibilities that if it is normal, you charge here, if it is abnormal, you charge here. But why they are saying give two methods? Because in this question, they have not given you the percentage of how much is normal, how much is abnormal. Where the question does not gives you the percentage, you have two options or two methods. What is option one? Entire under absorption is abnormal. What is second method or option two? Entire under absorption is normal. Now, if I go by first method, entire under absorption is normal. So what would be my treatment? My treatment is this entire rupees 193040 will be charged to costing P&L. Now they've asked you what is the impact on profit. Simply, if you charge anything to cost P&L and if it is under absorption, it means it will be debited to cost P&L. So my profit will reduce by rupees 193040. Right? Similarly, what will be the treatment in this second method or second option? Rupees 193040, that is the amount, entire amount of under absorption, will be charged to product accounts as under. So this same treatment. Now, when I say charge to product, it has to be charged to the product accounts. What are the product accounts? So I have account head WIP FGCOS. Now I have to charge to these account heads in a ratio. Now what is this ratio? This ratio is the values given 231, 780. Then 380, 532. And then 990, 788. So I divide this entire amount of under absorption in this ratio. Right, students? So this is the treatment when they say give under two optional methods. Now, in this, a variation can be, again, another type of sum, which is not covered in this example, but that may come. Instead of giving the values of these, they have given you units. So here, the ratio is directly giving value of WIP FGCOS. Fine. Had it not been ratio in value, had they given you units, 10,000 units, 12,500 units, and 37,500 units. Now in this, whenever they give you units, you have to remember that finished goods and COS units, you will consider whatever is given in the question. But for WIP, you will have to convert it into equivalent units by multiplying it by percentage completion. So whenever they will give you WIP units in the sum, they will say these units are 50% complete. So you will multiply it by the percentage completion to find out the equivalent units. And then these units become your ratio. So whenever in the question values are given, like in this question values are given, you directly take the value because values are always of equivalent units. You study this in process also. But where they are giving units. You have to be very, very cautious for WIP only. You have to convert the units into equivalent units by multiplying it by the percentage completion given in the question. This is how you will find out this, or you will do the treatment by dividing this amount in the ratio. Ratio may be of value or of rupees. So you'll get how much amount will be transferred to each account head of the product. Now here again, what will be the answer for impact on profits? Since it is under absorption, again, profit shall reduce, but reduce by what amount? By the amount which is transferred to COS, that is only this amount. So whenever the difference is because of normal circumstances, then the answer is that your profit is impacted by the amount which is going to COS. Why? Because COS represents the amount of those units which are already sold. Now, whatever is sold, you now cannot recover it from the customer. So that is dead and gone. So your profit is impacted by this. But these two represent the quantity which is still holding in your stock. So whatever is the difference pertaining to the WIP and the finished goods unit, you can still add the difference here. And now this becomes your revised cost of these units. So whenever you sell it in future, you will be able to recover this under absorption from these units. So that is why these are not your profit or loss creating values, but this which is already sold, there is no hope of recovery. Hence, that amount is the amount which is written off to profit and loss. So this is how we have different aspects in your overhead chapter. And now I link it with ABC. So this is what we do is now called as traditional, because for doing the same thing, that is charging the overheads, we have now a new approach, which is called as the activity-based costing. Now, in our traditional approach, what we did, we first distributed the overheads between departments, which is primary. Then we redistributed the service department cost to production departments, which we call as secondary. And then after getting the totals of each production department, we computed the ORR by dividing the overheads of each department by the base. And these ORR is what is called as overhead recovery rate or charging rate for overheads, which we use for charging to our products. However, ABC says we follow the same approach. So the ideology is same. You again have the production overheads or the total overheads distribution statement. That is what we do in primary and secondary. The only difference is in ABC, they say you divide it in your activities. So we were now dividing it in departments. They say divide it in all the activities that you perform. Now my activities may be of two types. One is my direct activities, or the other is my support or ancillary activities. Now these direct activities would be order placing, procurement, storage, setup, packing, etc., etc. Support activities would be accounting, security, planning, etc., etc. Now here also what you do is all your overhead expense are first divided between all these activities, primary distribution. You get totals of all these activities. Then the support activity cost are again redistributed to your direct or the primary activities, which is the secondary distribution step. And at the end of this step, all these costs become zero. And now you have cost only of your direct or your primary activities. Now, these are all overheads, but we call it over here as our cost pool. So what is called as total overheads in traditional method is called as cost pool here. And then this total overheads is to be divided by a base. Now, what we call as base in traditional method is called over here as activity cost driver. Now, depending upon the activity, you select a driver. So if this is ordering activity, you will select the driver as number of orders. If this is storage activity, you will select the driver as units stored. If this is inspection, you will take units inspected. If this is setup, you will take number of production runs. If this is packing or dispatch, you will take the number of deliveries made, and so on. So depending upon the nature of activity, you divide it by the respective base, which is the cost driver. And when you divide this cost, that is overheads of each activity, by the cost driver, what you get is your ORR. Again, this is the traditional name. Here we call it as the activity cost driver rate. So let us say it is coming as 20 per order. It is coming as 10 per unit stored, and so on. Correct? So the entire conceptual part is same, entire working part is same. The only difference is in traditional we do department wise, in activity we do activity wise. Correct? Now once you find out this ORR, again while charging you do the same thing, you prepare cost sheet. So the prime cost part remains same because both are same jobs or same products. The only thing that will change is in traditional, overheads are charged using the departmental approach in which you have the single or the multiple rates. And here we have the activity-based approach. So what are the type of questions that are asked? So generally here, the question starts from here. So the first thing that you're asked is to find out the ORR, for which many times in the question, directly the activity cost pool is given. We have to simply identify the driver and divide it. You get your driver rate, that is the ORR. The first question to be solved here. Generally, primary, secondary is not asked. Very rarely, you have to do some part of primary, secondary. Otherwise, that is done and directly the cost of each activity is given. And then the second part in this type of question is also preparing cost sheet. Now, when they ask you to prepare cost sheet, they ask you to do it by both the methods so that a comparison can be done between the traditional approach and the ABC approach. For traditional, this ORR, either the rate is given or they again give you data by which you can calculate this ORR for traditional, and then you find out driver rate for ABC, and then you prepare cost sheet under both the approaches. So this is what happens in case of ABC questions. Let us go to ABC. Now, in this first question, now see in ABC, different types of businesses would be given. It may not only be manufacturing. This is another very distinctive feature. The traditional approach can be used only in production sectors, whereas ABC can be used in production sector, service sector, in aviation industry, banking industry, hotel industry, everywhere. Because the major point of difference, or I'll say reason why ABC has gained momentum, is that traditional method of overhead distribution was designed only to cater to production departments or production or manufacturing companies, whereas nowadays we have very big service sectors. So the traditional approach does not cater to service sector. That is where the ABC is more gaining momentum. So for manufacturing, even today, the traditional approach is used, means they have option. Some use ABC, some continue with traditional. But in all service sector or any non-manufacturing entity, it is by default ABC. So here your questions also will not only be relating to production. So be very clear with the question, read it carefully. So see, what is asked in the first question? Alpha Limited has decided to analyze the profitability of its customers. So till now we were doing costing, we were finding out profit of products. Now see how ABC changes the game. In ABC, you can even find out the cost or the profit for each customer category. So here they have 5 types of customer. Now these 5 may be on the basis of, let us say, the value of orders they place, So some customers are low price order, means they will place order only of 200, 500 or 1000 rupees. Some customers may be placing order in multiples of thousand, like 5,000, 10,000. Some may be household, that is retail customers. Some may be your wholesale customers. Some may be your export customers. Some may be domestic. Some may be government bodies. So you can divide your customer into various groups. So they have identified that their customer groups are 5. Now for each group, how many units are sold, that is boxes or cases are sold. You deal in bottle. Per case of, let us say, 10 bottles, you have 90 rupees. This is your cost, purchase cost. And then these are your selling prices to different customers depending upon the category of customers. Now, this is the most interesting part. You have identified for each customer what are the different activities that you do and how much of each activity each customer group is consuming. So purchase orders, customer visits, the deliveries, the travel kilometers, and at times when you have to give fast deliveries. So for each customer category, what are the different usage of these activities that is given? And then the first step is already done. You need not calculate the ORR or the driver rate, that they have done in this question. What you are simply required to do is you have to find out the customer level operating income. So my answer would be, as per the question, be clear with what is asked. So they are asking you to compute customer level operating income. So I will call it as statement of operating. So particulars and my customer categories A, B, C, D, E. Now, since I have to find out operating income, I may start with sales minus purchase cost so that I get GP. Now, how this sales will happen? Units, sorry, here it is cases. Cases sold into selling price. The selling price is different for each customer category because they are of different categories. You have fixed different prices. And for purchase, your costing is same. You purchase every bottle for 90 only. So this difference is your GP. But I want to find operating income, that is net profit. So from this, I deduct my support cost, which is your overheads. And how you are charging this support cost? Using activity approach. So now what are your different activities? The different activities are order taking. So I have to charge my order taking cost. Then I have customer visits, I have deliveries. Then I have product handling and I have expedited delivery. Expedited delivery. Now, how will I charge? Driver rate is 750 per purchase order. So you will go to the data and you will find out how many purchase orders I require for customer A, 15, and per order I spend 750. Now in our next sum, we'll be finding out this 750 also. In this sum they have given. So here I will charge 15 orders I am requiring for this customer category, and per order I spend 750. Similarly, for customer visits, that is 600 per visit. How many visits I have done? 2 visits I have done. So 2 visits into 600. Then 5.75 per delivery kilometer travel. Now this is important. Now what is given? Number of deliveries are given and kilometers per delivery is given. So I have to multiply this because I have gone to this customer group for 10 times and every time I have to travel 20 kilometers. See, this is an excellent example of these online apps which are now delivering goods to you. Now, these online apps actually do this type of customer segmentation to find out which customer category is profitable. If a particular customer category is not profitable, they may close down that customer category. But fine. So your cost is 5.75 per delivery kilometer travel, and my total delivery kilometer is this. So it is 10 deliveries into 20 kilometers which are traveled into 5.75 which is my cost. Then 3.75 per case sold. So I have these cases sold, which is 4680 into 3.75. See, these cases sold, I'm going to use here also 4680 cases, 4680 cases. 2250 per expedited delivery. Now, how many expedited deliveries are there? Here, expedited delivery is 0. So it is 0 delivery into 2250. So effectively it is 0. So this is how you will end up finding out the net profit for each customer category. See, selling price I have taken 108 for this customer category. Purchase cost was already given as 90. So cases sold into 108, cases sold into 90, I get my GP. And from GP, I deduct my remaining overheads cost to get my final operating income. Is this understood, students? Anybody, any questions or doubts here, beta? No questions? Great. So this is one type of question where ABC is used. Okay, now this is slightly lengthy, but this is again interesting. Go through this question, students. Read and understand the question. I'll just take a 2 minutes break. Students, now see, now this question is interesting for 2 reasons. One, here we have to do both things, traditional also, ABC also. Plus, to give you the feel, I have also included the primary secondary distribution here. So we get a holistic understanding. So what is the question saying? Now here it is of a production company. So this company produces some precision components. Management is not satisfied with the manner of recovery. Its total production overheads is 20 lakhs. Okay. And the present cost structure, cost center based method is this. So this is what is their present. So department wise means it is traditional method, the current one which we just studied in overheads. So there are two production departments, two service departments. Now somebody will say, sir, how you know these are two service departments? Because the bases are not given for calculating ORR. Now, A and B are production. Okay, anyways, they have mentioned also. C and D are service. The expenses are to be redistributed. So secondary distribution is given. And from this, you can understand which method it is. It is only direct method. Why? Because service departments are giving service only to production, not to the other service department. So it is direct method. Now, the manager has recently got to know about the ABC. And based on the detailed analysis, they have found out the following cost pools. That is, activity wise, they have done the primary, secondary. They have found out this cost of each activity and the cost drivers. Now, what are you required to do is only you have to find out the charging rate. First, under the traditional method, which will be rate per hour, and then under the ABC method, where you will be finding out the cost driver rates. Fine. So this is a sum where only the ORR is. So see, in the previous sum, ORR was given. We simply did charging. That is, it was the second step in ABC. Now in this sum, we are doing the first step of ABC. So first is calculation of ORR traditional method. So particulars, amount, basis of apportionment, and then A, B, C, D. So expenses are given. 8, 3.6, 4, 4.3. Correct? Expenses, that is overheads. Now, Department C's expenses, Department D's expenses. The basis is given. What is the ratio? 6:4, 60:40. And for this, the ratio is 30:70. So 240, 160 minus 4 and nil. And then 440 divided in this ratio. This is nil. I think this is coming as 132. And this will come as 308. Just confirm, please. Okay. So total overheads 10, 11, 1172, 3, 4, 7, 8, 28. Now the base 58,600 machine hours, 82,800 labor hours. Now when I divide this, so it is total overheads upon base. I believe it will come to some 20 rupees, if I'm not wrong, per machine hour. This will come to 10 rupees per labor hour. Please confirm, students. Tejaslin has given me some inputs. Okay, good. 2010. Now this is by the traditional method. Now I do the same thing by the ABC method. So calculation of cost, driver rates. So first column is activity. Second is the cost pool. Third is the cost driver. And then the activity cost driver rate. Now, what you have to simply do is you have to simply copy paste this procurement, material handling, setup, testing, packing. Then the cost pool, you have to copy this 440, 260, 780, 360, 204. Drivers also will copy. What are these? These are purchase order. These are store requisition. Purchase orders, stores, requisition, setups, testing hours. And deliveries. See, Abhishek, it is not overthinking problem. It is because in ABC, multiple things are given at the same time. We mix up the things. So the most important skill in ABC question is you should be able to segregate which part is dealing with traditional, which part is dealing with ABC. Once you are able to do that, the solving becomes easy. Or in the first type of question where only ABC data was given, you should be able to match. So mainly in ABC, the problem is you get confused or what you're saying overthinking because lot of data is given that you have to definitely control. Now dividing this by this, I get my ORR. So my first ORR is 100 per purchase order. Similarly, I'll find out every ORR, which is over here called as a driver rate. So this is per store requisition, this is per setup, this is per testing hour, this is per delivery. Correct? Fine. Now, this is again a manufacturing type sum. I'll just skip this for the paucity of time. Let me take you to another type of question, which is again a different industry, so that you get a flavor of all types of questions. Okay. Now, this fourth sum is dealing with a family store who again wants to find out profitability of its different production lines. So this is like a again a type of a departmental store, you can say. Now its different production lines are soft drinks, fresh produce, packaged food. So in a departmental store, you find so many different types of products. So they have identified three categories of products. Now the data provided for each of the production line is what are the data? Revenue means sales and the COGS. So this part will give you the GP. Now then, importantly, they are saying that there is some bottle returns. Now this bottle return is happening only in soft drink. It will not happen here because it has no relevance to other type of products. Then you have number of purchase order, number of deliveries. I think something has been skipped. So it is overlapping. This is number of order. This is number of deliveries. Okay. Now, so the data is given. What it says, family store also provides the following information. What is this information? That if they are following ABC, they will be apportioning cost like this. So this is how they apportion cost under the ABC method. Now, what is the question? The family store currently allocates the support cost, that is overheads, all cost other than your purchase cost, that is the direct COGS, to the production line on the basis of COGS sold of each production line. So this is very important. Presently, the support cost is charged using the base as COGS itself. Calculate the operating income as a percentage of revenue. Now, this sum requires both these steps. You have to find out ORR also, and you have to do charging also. Now, first is the traditional method where you are following the old approach, and then you have the ABC method. So, fourth sum. Calculation of ORR. Now, firstly, under the traditional method, I will call it as 4A. How are they calculating their ORR? Total overheads, which is over here called as the support cost, is divided by COGS. Now, since both are cost, we will express it as a percentage. How much is your total support cost? That is total overheads. Okay, firstly, total of COGS is this. 6 plus 15 is 21. 21 plus 9 is 30. So this is 30 lakhs. Now, what is the total support cost? It is the total of this. So 12 is 168, 170, 220, 420, 520, 520, 592, 800, 593, 6 and 3, 9 lakhs. So my total support cost is coming as 9 lakhs. Okay. Under the traditional approach, you are expressing it as a percentage of COGS. The first calculated ORR. Now, calculation of operating income. So what are my three product lines? Soft drinks, fresh produce, and packaged foods. Okay. Now, revenue minus COGS. This is my gross margin minus support cost, that is overheads. How I'll get support cost? It is COGS into 30%. This I will get as my final answer, which is operating margin. And then I'll find it out as a percentage of sale, that is percentage of revenue. Correct? So see, 793,500. 793,500. 21,600, 12,099. COGS 659. Now, 30% of this is my overheads, which I'm charging. Again, 30% of this and 30% of my tax. So I get 13,500. I get around 149,400 and I get around 39,900. This is what I'm getting, and then this divided by this into 100 will give you the percentage. So students, this is my answer under the traditional approach, which is part A. Now, the same thing they are asking me to do under the ABC approach. Again, first part is calculation of cost, driver, rates, same format, activity, cost pool, cost driver, and the driver rate. Now, see the data. They have given you description of activity, return of empty bottles. No base is given because it is a cost which has to be directly allocated to bottle return because it is only related to bottle return. So this will go there. Other costs, I'll have to find out the driver rates. So ordering, delivery, shelf stocking, and the last one is customer support. Now, what is the cost pool? 156 to 52. Then 172 800, 307 200. 307 200. Driver. 150 purchase order, 3150 deliveries. $8640 self-stocking hours. Shelf-stocking hours. 1536 line items. Yes, beta, please ask the conceptual doubt, Tejasvi. What is happening?
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, beta. Tell me.
Sir, in ABC costing, like I've seen some questions, like they ask for break-even point. So, sir, usually for calculation of break-even point, sir, we use the total fixed cost upon my contribution per unit or PV ratio. But sir,
Correct.
PV ratio is not available, so I
It
have
is
done.
available. It is available. See, what is this gross margin?
No, no, sir, not in this question, but a question I am referring to. It
But
is
then you
not.
have to give me the question, na? Because see, if they're asking you break-even point, then either the margin is available, which will give you PVR, or if you recall our previous sum, immediate previous sum, see, you were
Contribution per
given
unit.
the selling price, you were given the purchase cost. So you know the per unit margin, na?
Yes, sir.
It in CPU is there. So maybe in your question also, one of these things would be there. Either per unit margin you can calculate, that is CPU, or like this sum, the gross margin you can calculate. So gross margin divided by sales, you can find out the PVR.
Yes, sir. Sir, the point was that with fixed cost, do we have to also take all these activity costs?
But activity costs are fixed cost. The total of this is what is our total support cost of 9 lakhs. We calculated 9 lakhs by taking total of this only, na? And all
Yes,
overheads, which you can see, are generally fixed until unless mentioned otherwise. What will your overheads include? Rent, depreciation,
yes.
repair maintenance, salaries, all these are fixed.
Yes, sir. Just this thing I want to ask because, sir, in some questions I have seen that they have asked the break-even point after.
So, beta, what happens? See, understand. Now, we are at the advanced stage of this subject where you will be given mixed questions like They will be taking the base of ABC, but they will be asking you to calculate something from standard costing, like some variance. Maybe they will be asking you to calculate something from marginal costing, like the break-even sales. So that is fine. In fact, that is what is uh, the main skill testing question. You understand?
Yes, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Most welcome. Fine. So students, I first calculate the driver rates by taking the cost pool, dividing it by the cost drivers. I'll get the driver rate, which is nothing but your ORR. So this I could calculate orally. Others you can calculate for me and give it to me. Now again, going back to the main part, calculation of operating income. First is soft drinks, then fresh produce, and then packaged foods. Again, the same revenue minus COGS. This is my gross margin. Now see, this remains same under both. So whatever gross margin you are getting here, because this part will be same. The direct cost, direct sales part remains same. So same gross margin I should get 193,500. Then 600, 600 and 309,900. Okay. So gross margin is done. Now the overheads, that is the support cost. These would be charged using these. So first you have the bottle returns, which is only for soft drinks. Then you have these other ordering, delivery, shelf stocking, and the customer support, right? Now you'll charge it using the data given. So here we are given the data for each product category. So purchase orders is 360, 840, 360. It is 360 orders, 840 orders, 360 orders into 100, 100, 100. Correct? Then 300 to 190, 660 deliveries. 300 to 190 and 660 deliveries into the ORR. Shelf stocking 540, 5,400, 2,700. And then customer support. So you get again your net or the operating margin. That is your net profit. And then dividing it by percent by revenue, you can calculate the margin percentage. Right, students? Yes. Excellent. Good. Yes, Tejaswin, correct. So Tejaswin has given me the driver rates 80, 22. This he has given as 80, which is per delivery. This he has given as 20, which is per shelf stocking hours. And this given has 2 per item. So I use these driver rates to charge overheads here. Right, it is 80, it is 20, and it is 2. Great. So students, this is how ABC is done. I'm sure you all would have understood. I'm sure you all would have got the comparison part of overheads and ABC. That is why both these were kept together, so that you can also understand how both are linked and how both are complementing each other, though they are actually uh, competitors, but still they are complementing each other, because this is how the sums would be given many times. So I think the entire concept is clear to you all. I have covered majority adjustments with all types of question types. So I'm sure this would be very much helpful, but this is not the end. You have to start taking up your revision part from here by solving different past exam questions. You should also refer past MTPs, RTPs for a better understanding, right? So with this, I close. If anybody has any doubts in particular on any concept, on any question, please feel free to ask. We at BOS are always there to fully support you, to ensure that you pass with the best of your efforts. So we are always there to support you in all possible forms. So be connected to BOS portal. You keep on getting updates, the other practice materials which are uploaded. Please use them. And once again, from entire BOS, I wish you the best of efforts for your upcoming attempt. So have a disciplined and focused efforts to get the best results. So thank you. Let us catch up again for the next revision part. Till then, keep revising. Thank you all. Thank you very, very much. Yes, Manishji. Thank you very much, Manishji. Good day.